Good morning, guys. I'm at 24,000 miles approximately right now, and I just changed my tires. I'm taking this opportunity to change my bearings, even though they are not bad yet. We're going to inspect them later on, but it's best practice not to risk it. This is a safety item, so I urge you guys to always check your bearings. They can fail on a brand new bike. There is a gentleman that reported that his rear wheel had a catastrophic failure on the highway, and he got lucky actually for not going down, and Honda actually covered the replacement. I'll show you the post that he did on Birch's video of the tires. So it's not wise to wait until the bearings fail to change them. It's a safety issue. There are several ways to remove the bearings from the wheel. I've opted to invest in the right tools since I always prefer to do the work myself on my bike. This is a smart investment. Keep in mind, I am not a trained mechanic. I'm not responsible for any damage to your bike or yourself. Please keep that in mind. This is just for reference and your entertainment. I am using the service manual, as you can see, and I'll follow it step by step. The rear wheel has 3 bearings and the seals, while the front only has 2. The price of the bearings, as you can see, is approximately $120 or $130 in total. In order to perform this job, you have to have the bike on stands and remove both the front as well as the rear wheel. I have a video on how to do that. I'm going to link those videos in the description below, and I'm going to show a very short clip of how it's done, just for your reference. Let's get started with the rear wheel first. The first thing we're going to do is remove the rear light assembly. Next thing we're going to remove is the chain guard. Next thing we're going to do is loosen the axle nut. Next, we're going to remove the chain adjusters. Hold the hex adjuster in place while we undo it. Unscrew the chain adjuster by turning it counterclockwise. Pull up on the caliper and use a zip tie. Let's remove the axle. Just like that. All right, as you guys can see, I decided to go with the Pirelli Night Dragons, and I'll do a follow-up video in the future. First thing we have to do is put the wheel on these wooden blocks to raise the wheel off the ground, because you don't want your disc to be on the ground directly, and you also need a gap on the bottom. That way when you're driving the bearings through, it has a little bit of space at the bottom. First thing we have to do is remove the sprocket. So with a shaking motion like that, just pull up. This is called the cush drive. And these are the rubber dampeners, and you can remove them. And don't be worried once you remove it that you're going to have an issue putting it back. They only go back in one way. So if I try to put it in this way, as you can see, it's not going to fit. This way, it's not going to fit. It only goes back in one way, so don't be scared about removing them. Take this opportunity to wipe it clean using WD-40. See some of the rust? I ride year-round, so I ride during winter, I ride in the rain, and in winter there's a lot of salt on the ground, and that's why I'm a little bit concerned about the bearings, because water and salt coming in here is going to deteriorate and reduce the life of the bearings. You also have an O-ring that needs to be replaced, which is this one right here, and we'll do that later. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to put this remover head in here like that, and then we're going to come in from the other side and drive this in. The concept behind this is that you see this slot right here, this goes into it, and once you drive it in, this expands, opens, and presses up against the bearing wall over here, and that's how you drive it out. Flip the wheel over and put the collet on a piece of wood on the bottom, because you need a solid surface to drive the actual shaft in. And now we can come in this way until we make contact, rotate it until it sinks in, which it has. I felt it, it sunk in. And now what we're going to do is we're going to give it a few taps over here to drive it in and expand that collet so it pushes on the walls. Now that we're in position, we have the actual bearing remover attached. The shaft is over here. We're going to hit it to start driving it out. I have another camera on the bottom and I'll show you a different angle. There it is. So I flipped the wheel over so that we can inspect the inside surface and clean it. Let's take a closer look so you guys can see what it looks like with about 24,000 miles on it. So we just need to clean the inside surface. Make sure you do a thorough job. You see the little shelf on the bottom over there? That's where the bearing is actually going to sit. So make sure that it is completely clear and perfectly straight. Now we can drive the second bearing out. We're going to come in underneath the seal and torque down this way so that it can pop up. You can actually use a screwdriver. I wouldn't recommend it because you never know. You might slip and then scratch the surfaces on the inside. Don't risk it. Use something that is made of plastic. That's what the dust seal looks like. Wipe the inside. And this bearing actually feels very good too. Okay, let's drive the second bearing out. I can feel it going now. There it is. And here's the second bearing. Like before, we need to clean on the inside. And the last bearing on the rear wheel is on the sprocket itself. Now, keep in mind, this dust seal is different than this one. Do you see how this has indentations over here? And that's why we have two different kinds for the rear wheel. This is from the actual wheel itself, and this is the sprocket. To remove the last bearing from the sprocket carrier, it's best to use the actual bearing driver instead of the bearing puller. Because of this collar right here, it's going to give you a little bit of trouble. It's best to do this, and then you'll drive it out this way. When you're setting it, do not set it on the teeth and start banging because you're going to warp your sprocket. Easy does it. This bearing is a little bit rougher than the others. I can actually feel the bearings on the inside. I'll try to take it apart so we can examine it together. Make sure we clean the inside well. Before we install the new bearing, let's compare it to the old one. I don't feel any issues whatsoever. This is the one with 24,000 miles on it. This is the brand new one. You actually feel it a little bit stiffer because the grease on the inside is still new. And here's a treat. These came off a bike with 30,000 miles on it. This is Marsha's bike. So let's take a look at these and compare them. As you can see, this one does not turn. So let's take a look on the inside to see. Do you see that mess on the inside? That's why we need to replace the bearings. You don't want to ride with this. It doesn't even turn. You see the bearings on the inside, how they are rusted? This is the second bearing from the rear wheel, and this has 30,000 miles on it. Let's compare the two. Came off the same bike. This is Marsha's bike right before her cross-country trip. 30,000 miles on it. One of them is totally messed up, and the other one looks almost brand new. So you never know. Don't risk it, guys. Make sure you change them. For comparison, these two came off my bike with 24,000 miles on it. And you see this one has a little bit more wear than this one. So they don't always go out at the same time. So keep that in mind. As you can see, both on Marsha's bike and my bike, one started to deteriorate before the other. These are Marsha's with 30,000. These are mine with 24,000. The manual calls to install the right side bearing first. And they mentioned that they want the inscription facing up. You see them right here and right there. The other side does not have. Okay? We're gonna put a little bit of grease just to kind of help it go in. You want to make sure it is completely flat. Okay? You don't want to come in at an angle, right? So you want it to be completely flat as you're driving it in. There are other ways to do this, but this is the right way to do it, okay? This is per the manual. They want a 17mm pilot and a 47mm outer diameter, and this will fit just like that, perfectly on it, and that way you can drive it in and not have to worry about damaging anything. Make sure you guys are going slowly and checking and rechecking and double checking and triple checking to make sure that it's going in square. Did you hear that noise? You see how it changed in tone? Now it's all the way at the bottom. And the way to double check it is flip the wheel over. And then you can take a look on the inside and you'll see that it's fully seated. Next, we're going to place the distance collar in the center over here, and you're going to line it up with the bearing on the bottom in this fashion, just like that. Okay? See? While we're here, let's not forget we have to replace this O-ring right here. Pull it out, put it off to the side. Make sure you clean the groove on the inside. Once again, the manual states that the actual engraving over here needs to face up. This and this. Put a little bit of grease. give the O-ring a tiny bit of grease. Use a rubber mallet just to kind of get it nice and square before you start to drive it in. Constantly inspect it to make sure that it's level. Make sure you check that the distance collar is still in place. You can hear that. We still have about a millimeter or two to get to the bottom. Right there. This is the bearing that came off of my bike with 24,000 miles. Let's take a look at it on the inside to see what it looks like, and then we'll compare it to the one with 30,000 miles. That looks absolutely perfect. This is the one with 30,000 miles. Let's see what it looks like on the inside, then we can compare the two. All right, this one also looks pretty good. Oh yeah. Excellent. This is the one with 30,000 miles. This is the one with 24,000 miles.
Some kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight. You whip up my appetite. Don't leave me here high and dry. Baby, you give me ice and fire. You're gentle and wind and rain.
Now we can install the dust seal. For the rear wheel, there are two different ones. One is slightly larger than the other. The larger one won't fit in here. That goes on a Sprocket carrier. The smaller one is the one that fits in here. And the way to tell them apart is the smaller one has a spring on the inside. Put some grease on the inside. Put some grease over here. Install the dampers. And the Sprocket carrier. Put a little grease here. And install the dust seal. And now we can install the wheel on the bike. We're going to come in at an angle in this fashion and slowly push the caliper in place. Make sure the brake pads are separated. Without the air shim, this would have been a nightmare. Start from the top and rotate the wheel. Torque these to 20 foot-pounds. Now we need to install the chain adjuster. Now that we have the wheel installed, we need to set the chain slack as well as the alignment, and then we need to torque everything down. I'm going to link a video to all of that. We'll do the same thing on the front wheel. We're going to remove the dust seal over here. And then clean up on the inside. These bearings feel very good. Install the bearing removal tool. And drive the bearing out. There it is. Clean well on the inside. Remove the other dust seal. This bearing also feels very good. Once again, install the removal tool. And now we can drive the second bearing out. There it goes. And one more time, clean on the inside. These are the front bearings, and they actually look fantastic. They look great. No issues whatsoever. And let me show you the ones that have 30,000 miles on them. These two have 30,000 miles on them. These have 24,000 miles on them. They both look great, actually. We're gonna install the first one on the right side of the bike where the disc is, once again with the writing facing up. This time the manual calls for the 20mm pilot. Once again, when you're driving it, make sure it's going in flat. Did you hear how the tone changed? Install the distance collar. And drive in the second bearing with the markings facing up. Make sure it's square as it's going in. Check it frequently that it's going in square. We have a few millimeters left. Almost there. And we are listening for that change in tone. A bit more. There it is. And now we can install the dust seals. But before we do that, we're going to put a little bit of grease on the inside. And after installing it, put some additional grease on the inside lip. This side is done. We'll do the other side, and the front wheel is complete. Now we can install the wheel and have peace of mind until the next tire change. I hope you guys found this helpful. Please give me a thumbs up and let me know what you guys think in the comments. I read them all. I really appreciate them and all of the support and love that you guys show. So thank you so much. Have an amazing day, you guys. Torque it to 43 foot-pounds. Apply the front brakes and bounce.